In front of me is probably one of the most impressive lens in this market today. And regardless that even if it's an X mount or not, this 200mm f2 is one of the best performing lens you can get your hands on if you're looking for a lens of this focal range. I'm Richard and welcome to ZP Productions, and today we are taking a look at this lens here. This is the 200mm f2 Fujinon lens for the Fujifilm X-mount cameras such as the X-T3, X-T4 and the XS10. Now this lens has an interesting history. I purchased this lens 1.5 years ago, but I sold it to my friend 1 year back. He used it a few times and decided to go Sony because he wants to take birds, and as such, he didn't really use this lens for the last 1 year. So I decided to just buy back from him because I know the quality of this lens, and this is actually my lens to start with 1.5 years ago. I sold it to him and I got it back now. And I really want to share you guys the review of this lens here. Now, I didn't do it because by the time I start my YouTube channel, this lens is no longer with me. But now that it's back, let's have an initial look at this lens here. Today's review will cover the handling of this lens, the build quality of this lens, and the image quality of this lens. But just to note, this was based on my setup during that time, which is the X-T30 and the 200mm f2. Now I have the XS10, things are a bit different. I will talk about it later. First, when it comes to build quality, this lens is premium. This is as good as any Canon super teles you can get. Extremely premium feel. The biggest difference is the paint job. As you can see, this is like pearl white paint, not like the Canon cream white here. It's like pearl white paint that is a little bit shiny but really nicely textured. It is a very premium build lens in every single way. I really have no complaints of the lens build itself. And when it comes to lens build, there's one thing to note before I start everything else, is that this lens, even though it's a super tele lens and it's a 200mm f2, this is probably the only one with a front filter of 105mm, and you can mount traditional filters on it to protect the front element, or if not, you can mount circular polarizers and ND filters on it easily from the front. Now, that may be good, that may be bad, because on the Canon version, for example, there is a drop-in filter. As you can see here, there is a drop-in filter, and this may be something that people prefer because it is not big and it's not heavy. But drop-in filter is good only if it's not proprietary, and Canon version is proprietary, which is a bit irritating. But this is non-proprietary, however, is this going to cost you a lot of money to just buy a lot of filters on it. And beyond the filter itself, let's talk about what's on this body. Firstly, there is a few buttons like any super telephotos in this world. Premium super telephotos usually have a few buttons, and these are the focus preset ones that you can actually set it up. There is an AF ring here, and this AF ring, because this is a mirrorless lens for the X mount, this AF ring is not coupled. There is no way to control this lens when the camera is off, and when it's on, there is no hard stop, and that is something to note. So not the most nicest to use one, but actually I prefer this kind of ring over the coupled ones, especially for super telephotos, because it's really hard to manual focus anyway on super telephotos. So not being coupled is probably the better way for me, at least for super telephotos themselves. Next thing you see here is actually the aperture ring. The aperture ring goes from f2 to f22, and then there's an auto switch at the back. Now, this ring is good enough, and if you ask me, for a super tele, it's actually quite easy to access, because anyway, you're going to hold it here and just shifting the ring is a lot easier. But just to note that because this ring is, you can see here, in fact, you can actually see me turning this ring very easy. There is really a very loose ring that Fujifilm put on this 200mm f2. So you can actually accidentally knock into the ring, and that is something you must note. Now, there is a few switches here. There is, of course, the full, and then of course 5 meter to infinity. There is the focus limiter switch. There is an OIS switch. Notice that there is only an on and off. There is no mode A, mode B, mode C, because Fujifilm claims that they can detect the modes themselves, so you don't need to do it. And then there is, of course, the AF and then the AFL presets, which means allows you to set some functions to the buttons and stuff. Or you can just default it to AF and then it does nothing else. Now, this lens has a fixed tripod collar, very similar to Canon lenses of a super telephoto range. You cannot remove it. However, there is very nice clicks at 90 degrees and it is extremely smooth. In fact, if you ask me, for a lens of this weight, it should not have a removable tripod collar, unlike the Sigma 120-300. I don't know why they make it removable. But for a lens like this, it should not be removable, because it should be able to sustain the whole weight and you don't want it to accidentally slip out for any reason. And it's always nice to have groove inside rather than weird smoothness. One more thing about this lens is that Fujifilm did a good job, especially on the tripod fit. This is an Aka Swiss cutout plate, so you can easily mount it on tripods and on tripod heads themselves or gimbals. And not only that, they actually give you 2 screw mounts. You can actually mount the big screw and the small screw, giving you a lot of options on how to mount this lens onto the tripod themselves. Now, this is so much for the build quality of the lens. Let's talk about what it comes with also. Now, this is the hood, and the hood is really well made. I believe this is some sort of magnesium hood, or is it carbon fiber? I think it's magnesium. It feels like metal, a bit cold to the touch. And there is a very nice felt inner lining. And this inner lining actually prevents light from bouncing around and then causing some diffraction into the lens itself. Now, this hood itself is like traditional locking hoods of the Canon type, which is a screw lock. And most super telephotos tend to use this type of locking hoods. But just to note that because the plastic they use here is quite thick, you really have to make sure that this hood sits nicely into the 200mm groove. If not, the hood can actually slightly drop off, because there's a few times I was trying to fit the hood into the lens and I didn't check. So it was not sitting perfectly into the groove itself. Unlike the Canon's one, the groove is very thin, so it's easy to know that it goes into the groove itself and very easy to lock. The Fuji one made it a bit thick, so you usually have to make sure that you press into the groove itself and lock it tight. If not, this hood will just drop off. One more thing to add about the hood is because this lens has a front filter, they expect you to probably use variable NDs or circular polarizers on it. So they actually give you a nice window so they can put a finger in and turn the polarizers and turn the filters themselves. Nice touch to it, but I don't know how many people actually use it, especially for a super telephoto. The next I want to talk about is, of course, the provided 1.4 teleconverter you can see here. This is perfectly made to match with the 200mm. It's a 1.4 teleconverter. This allows you to extend it to a 280mm, or if you convert it to full frame 420mm lens. So it is still very nice to know that Fujifilm gave this. This lens is not cheap, but considering the teleconverter and the quality of this teleconverter, I think it's probably worth it. Fujifilm decided to go a more practical way of giving you a lens back. The Canon one comes with a hard case that nobody actually probably likes. It can't mount the camera inside. It's only meant to protect the lens. But in the end of the day, once you take it out, it's a useless case. While Fujifilm gave you this case that comes with the lens, and of course with the teleconverter you can put on top. But once you remove this foam that holds the teleconverter, you can actually put the whole camera into the bag. As you can see here, it actually can be put into the bag and the camera will be nice flush onto the surface of the bag itself, which means you can transport this 200mm with whatever camera you have, the X-T3, X-T4, XS10, in this bag itself and securely bring it to everywhere you want, making this a very useful bag because you can actually carry a setup in it, unlike the 200mm Canon versions that you can't even carry the camera, so you still need a separate sling bag for it. Now, so much for the build quality itself. Next, we'll talk about handling. Just to note that this lens, as I said, was used in the past, and the handling I'm giving you now is my experience with the X-T30. Now, the X-T30 and the XS10 you see here are very similar in weight class. They are 400 over plus grams. So as such, the whole combination here is actually very manageable. This lens is 2.264 kg or 2,264 gram, adding a 460 gram body like the XS10 on top, or the X-T30, which is I think 420 gram. No, this whole setup is very light. It doesn't weigh more than 2.7 kg for a 300mm f2.8 equivalent. Very impressive weight, considering the image quality, which I will talk about it in the next session itself. And with the X-T30, then the problem with the X-T30 is that it has a very anemic grip. But now with the XS10, I feel very much secure. And as you can see, I can actually hold this camera and this lens setup easily with one hand. Now, of course, it puts a bit of strain, and this thing is still not light. It's 2.7 kg. However, with the very thick grip on the XS10, I can now say that this setup is perfect for general usage for portraiture itself. Now, most importantly, this whole setup with the X-T30 or the XS10 now is very light. As such, you can really use this for the entire shoot without much fatigue. This setup here, by the way, for the Canon one is 3.5 kg, a full 800 grams heavier than the Fuji setup. So really, this is going to put a lot of strain on you. While this guy with 800 gram lesser, you really can carry this for a much longer period of time. And not only that, look at the size difference of this lens. This is massive. This whole setup is massive. Look at the size. Yes, the lens are the same size, but the mount plus the camera is huge. Well, this is so much more compact. This is easier to keep, easier to carry, it is lighter, and you probably can last a longer session with this setup than the Canon version. And the image quality is really similar. I will talk about it in the image quality section itself. These 200mm, of course, have a much newer OIS than those that can be found in the Canon system. As such, you can see in the viewfinder, for example, it is very, very stable. Very easy to frame your shot with this camera. Just note, on APS-C camera, this OIS is very important because this is a 300mm f2.8 equivalent. a slight move will actually shift your framing like crazy, and the OIS really helps you so much in the framing itself. And not only is it very stable in the viewfinder, when you actually take the shot itself, this OIS is quite capable. At 140, you'll get like 100% hit rate. At 120, you will get like maybe 60-70% hit rate, which is very respectable for a 200mm f2. This is definitely better than the one that Canon has. However, once again, if you're going to do portrait-wise, you only can probably shoot at 140. So this lens and this OIS is probably perfect for portrait. At 140, if the model doesn't move, you can get a perfectly tech-sharp shot. For AF-wise, I want to talk about it because my experience was with the X-T30. And the X-T4 and the XS10 has a newer AF system that is probably better. Now, in terms of image quality, usually, I break it up to 3 simple parts, but I'm not doing any synthetic tests with this lens because I just got it back. So let's take a look at some of the photos I shot maybe 1 year plus back. Firstly, in this shot here, you see with Rina itself, this shot shows you how smooth the bokeh is in the background, but it also shows you how pop this lens is. Look at how pop she is in this setup here. Now, if I zoom in on her face itself, notice that on her metal frame glass itself, there is no chromatic aberration. Now, metal frames glass are the ultimate chromatic aberration magnet, but even then, there is not a single chromatic aberration on this particular lens. It is very, very perfect when it comes to corrections such as this. And if you look at the lashes, they are extremely, extremely sharp. I mean, I really don't know how much sharper do you get from any other lens out there when you compare to this lens. This is probably one of the sharpest lens at a pixel level you can probably get in the market today. Now, if you look at another shot here, similarly, the bokeh is very smooth. If I zoom in on the eyes, she is very, very sharp. Her eyelashes are tech sharp. But most importantly, in this particular shot here, there is some railings at the back. These are silver metal railings. And notice there is no chromatic aberration, and in this case is longitudinal chromatic aberration, which is extremely hard to correct. And notice there is none of them in this particular shot. This really shows how much effort that Fujifilm put into this particular lens here to make this the perfect lens when it comes to corrections itself. It is really very, very good when it comes to the image quality of the lens. Now, when it comes to bokeh, I'm going to let you have a little bit of comparison. This lens here, as I said, is a 300mm f2.8 equivalent, and I have the 200mm f2 Canon here. Look at this shot for Rina once again. The bokeh, especially in the bushes, in the background, is so smooth. Now, if I show you a shot from this lens here, similarly, there are trees in the background, but notice the trees will still have some texture, some roughness. So if you really want the perfect, smooth bokeh shot in this world, the Fujinon 200mm actually does outperform the Canon 200mm when it comes to that kind of effect. But once again, this is more like a 300mm f2.8. I don't have a 300mm Canon here. I'm not really sure whether that 300mm Canon will actually produce you a bokeh of similar look. But at least the Fujinon 200mm here, it is smoother than the Canon 200mm when it comes to bokeh itself. That's about it for image quality, and really this lens is extremely impressive every way. Image quality, performance handling, it is really, really nice. But the biggest problem with this lens is not the lens itself, it's the camera bodies. Now, Fujifilm, of course, came out with the X-T4 and the XS10 now. With the XS10, I think this is a very perfect, compact 300mm f2.8 equivalent setup that will really give you that kind of image quality, in the market today, regardless of system. However, the biggest problem is that there is no pro body for this lens. Now, obviously, this lens is not just for portraiture. This is actually meant for indoor sports. It is meant for outdoor sports. It is meant for capturing action. And with the teleconverter itself, it is also useful for wildlife. The problem is there is no pro body. The most pro body, the X-T4, really, if you ask me, compared to like the R5 or the A9 II, is a little bit lacking today. And really, if Fujifilm can come out with a R5 equivalent or the A9 II equivalent body for the Fujifilm X-mount system, I can then really wholeheartedly recommend this lens. But if not, without those pro body itself, this lens is still a mystery to me on why Fujifilm actually come out with this lens. Even though, yes, I love it. I love this lens a lot. But for most people out there, I don't think this lens is probably the lens you should buy, at least for the X-mount system. And, the weight, size, everything, the price probably doesn't fit into the market that Fujifilm is aiming for without the pro body that is still lacking in the Fujifilm X-mount setup. And that's about it for my initial review. This lens is fantastic. It is premium with the XS10. It is the lightest, smallest, most compact setup for a 300mm f2.8 image quality equivalent in the market today. But without the pro body, I really cannot recommend this to everyone. I hope you enjoyed this short little review I have of this 200mm f2, and I will do a follow-up in the next few weeks. Until then, I'll see you again. Bye bye. And if you've got any questions, do put them in the comments below. I will answer it in the next review itself.